Check, check, check. Is that working, Paul? Okay. Can the people on Zoom, if you can hear me, would you wave? Okay, cool. And checking this one. Okay, yeah, that one's really working. And here, also on Zoom, is this good on Zoom? Okay, great. We're going to start in just 1 second. Kevin, are we ready to go? Okay, I'm Buzz Fraun. Brooke Bashara, who's the president of the Board of Trustees, is on the phone, and so she asked me as another member of the Board of Trustees to preside over this meeting. And so I'm going to call to order this special meeting of the congregation. I'll try to remember to take my mask off as when I'm up here talking. I want to acknowledge at the start of this meeting the sadness and upset feelings that I know a lot of people in the congregation are having, just 1 week after Dave Jewett's passing. And for some, it might feel incongruous that we are talking about, what our future plans are and this grand vision that we're going to hear from Sally about. But I think as Amy said in her note about Dave's passing last week, this church, this community, is something that Dave loved and where he was loved. And so maybe in light of that, talking about building for future generations is entirely appropriate. But let me also say that both Reverend Amy and Reverend Kat are available if people have emotions or feelings that they want somebody to bounce off of and talk about. So with that, let me ask Amy to come up and light our chalice.
Thank you so much, Buzz. You're taller than I am. Yeah, thanks for acknowledging that. I want to light our chalice with some favorite words of mine by Kenneth Patton, speaking about this house. This house is for the ingathering of nature and human nature. It is a house of friendships, a haven in trouble, an open room for the encouragement of our struggle. It is a house of freedom, guarding the dignity and worth of every person. It offers a platform for the free voice, for declaring both in times of security and danger the full and undivided conflict of opinion. It is a house of truth-seeking, where scientists can encourage devotion to their quest, where mystics can abide in a community of searchers. It is a house of art, adorning its celebrations with melodies and handiworks. It is a house of prophecy, outrunning times past and times present in visions of growth and progress. This house is a cradle for our dreams, the workshop of our common endeavor. So may it be.
Let me tell everyone, apologies for not printing an agenda ahead of time, but the agenda items are, thank you. The agenda items are next, we're going to read the relational covenant, which governs our interactions here. We'll hear an update from the mission task force, and then we'll move into the meat of the meeting, which is a report from the campus visioning task force and a vote on a motion on whether to proceed with that process. So let us now read the relational covenant. Kevin, if you can share your screen. Perfect. Is there a way to, I'm going to try to make that larger. Can everyone in the room see that? Ish. All right, here we go. Let's do this together in unison. We of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Palo Alto have adopted this covenant to inspire and guide our interactions with one another. We come together to create a community committed to a free, open, and loving search for spiritual meaning. Our community calls on each of us to extend compassion and kindness, to act from courage rather than fear, to treat one another with respect, and to honor one another's contributions. We commit to listen to one another, to acknowledge and address disagreements, and to express our concerns directly with those involved. We embrace diversity, for it is our differences that enrich us. We embrace democracy, for it allows our voices to be heard. We embrace forgiveness, for it opens us to hope. And we embrace this life, for it is what we have together. We accept responsibility for making our community everything we want it to be. Some good concepts to keep in mind for our coming discussion. The next thing that I want to do is just confirm that we have a quorum. Kevin, will you give me a wave to confirm the Secretary of the Board of Trustees confirms that we have a quorum here. Now let me ask the Mission Task Force to come up. I'll introduce them. Marilyn Austin is the chair. Ed Hurdle, Chris Kahn, and Matt Rosin are all here to speak. And then Brooke Bashara is also on the task force, but she's online.
Change glasses. Last August, when Brooke Bashara recruited us, she conveyed the following charge from the board. 1, craft a mission statement for UUCPA that is suitable for reciting at Sunday services and for use in church publicity, and do it in time for it to be voted on at the spring 2023 Congregational meeting. 2, report on the content of what we expect to include in the formal mission statement at the meeting today. 3, get as much input as possible from the congregation itself in determining this content. That is why you received so many communications from us urging you to tell us why you think UUCPA exists in the world. This framing of the question comes from literature on the role of church missions. We spent a month studying that, as well as what we could find about the history and current situation of UUCPA. We came to understand that although at a particular point in time, a church has a vision or plan for what it intends to do in the coming year or years. For example, today our meeting is about the vision for our campus. But the mission of a church is in place for many years and serves as a guidepost for year-to-year decisions about policy, finance, and programs. This doesn't just apply to the board. For example, I am a member of the ARE committee. Every year, we select 3 themes that we think people will find interesting. But we aren't just any old adult education program. We are developing classes and discussion groups for the adults of UUCPA. So our themes need to be in concert with the mission of this congregation. The same is true for the Action Council, the Forum, the Humanist Group, the Book Group, and so on. Each one decides how they are going to proceed based on a variety of factors. But always in the background should be the question, how does this relate to the mission of UUCPA? we decided to begin the process of getting input from you with a survey, which was sent to everybody in the UUCPA database. Chris was in charge of that, so he will tell you about it.
Thank you, Marilyn. Appreciate it. We all know that being a UU can be complicated, and certainly means different things to different people. So when we were designing this survey, we wanted to make sure that you as a congregation were able to express yourselves to the fullest potential. So that's why we designed the survey to allow you to freely associate words and phrases. This allowed you the most amount of choice, but still allowed us as a committee to try to determine what set of ideas or values matter to each individual person, and then, as a whole, to the congregation. So there's some fancy math behind that, and Ed will explain how we did it.
Thank you, Chris. I'll spare you the details of the mathematics. You may recall the survey included lists of 17 words and 18 phrases, and people were asked to choose up to 5 items from each of those lists that resonated most with them when thinking about UUCPA's mission. Additional thoughts could be added in a text box at the end. Of course, everything was completely anonymous, so we have no idea how any specific person responded, except for a very few cases where people voluntarily identified themselves, perhaps by including a name or an email address. My statistical analyses focused just on the choices of words and phrases, not the responses in the text box. In addition to seeing how often each word or phrase was marked, I looked for patterns. Vector analyses showed which words and phrases tended to go together, and cluster analyses teased apart subgroups of people within our congregation with more or less similar views. These statistical analyses turned out to provide helpful confirmation for the themes that emerged from all the other data we collected. And Matt was going to have more to say about that.
So altogether, we have a couple different. We on? All right. Are we on? Okay. So altogether, we talked with 79 of you during our various mission conversations, and that included 14 children and youth. We took careful notes on everything you told us about why you think UUCPA exists in the world. And as Ed was saying, we also heard from you via the surveys. So among the 116 survey responses we received, 46 of you included write-in feedback, the vast majority of which was related to the church mission. So when we'd had all these conversations, had gotten all of this feedback, Marilyn and I each took all of the conversation notes, all of the write-in responses, and separately from each other, sat down to figure out what were the most central and pervasive themes in what you were telling us. Then we came together and compared our findings, and we were delighted to find that we had in fact heard the same things, each with adding some slight nuance to each other's picture. And it was a joyful collaboration. Moreover, the things we found in what you told us cohered powerfully with the quantitative results that Ed was just describing. So Ed and I are going to tell you that collective story now. About what you told us about why UUCPA exists in the world. This will go up eventually soon on the website, and when it does, I encourage you to study it and think about its implications, because it's a powerful story. So what we'll do right now, I'm going to present the main themes from the conversations, and for each, Ed will share a little bit about how the quantitative resonate with that as well. So first, our connection is fundamental to all that we do. There were repeated comments about feeling very connected to other UUCPA people and highly valuing this.
And the word and phrase choices on the survey told a similar story. Fully 75% of the respondents chose the word connection. That was the highest percentage for any item on the survey.
Sunday services and other ritual contexts provide a refuge for inspiration and renewal. Although some of us resist the use of the word worship, most of us value the opportunity to pause our ordinary lives on Sunday morning and be inspired by the music, ritual, and spoken reflections of UUCPA's Sunday services. And many also appreciate and would like more other shared opportunities and pathways for spiritual growth.
Analyses show that a cluster of phrases, including free and loving search for spiritual meaning, reverence, and nurturing our true selves, resonated with many respondents.
Our shared rituals and activities provide openings for self-examination and evolution. Many of the comments in this category were expressing alternatives to the currently used word transformation. People value the variety of contexts at UUCPA wherein they are supported and encouraged to deepen their own understanding about the meaning of life and the implications this has for how they want to live during various stages of their life cycle. We become more fully ourselves together.
Almost half of the respondents, 45%, included the phrase free and loving search for spiritual meaning among those that resonated with them when thinking about UUCPA's mission. In one analysis, this was part of a cluster of words and phrases, along with reverence, nurturing our true selves, listen, and love.
We value our differences and the opportunity to learn from one another. Being part of UUCPA gives us the opportunity to know and learn from people who are different from us in various ways, including religious beliefs, spiritual practice, ethnicity, cultural background, generation, gender identity, sexual orientation, and skill sets. And what we give to each other is not only intellectual, that is, new ideas, critical thinking, but also the capacity to perceive and feel more deeply, and to bring our lives into greater alignment with our values.
Many respondents for whom the word diversity resonated were also drawn to words and phrases including cherishing our differences, working together, and compassion for all.
We live our values through collective action to make the world better. UUCPA folks differ in beliefs, but are generally aligned in terms of values. And we appreciate being able to work together to put those values into action for those both within and beyond our own congregation and community.
Over half the respondents included the word justice as one that resonated for them, and it was strongly associated with words and phrases including campaigning for justice and diversity, as well as earth and the well-being of the earth.
We support each other through the celebrations, transitions, and vulnerabilities of life. People reported being grateful for the support they have received from others at UUCPA during difficult times in their lives. They said they felt free to share their vulnerabilities because they could expect support rather than rejection.
About a third of respondents selected the phrase honoring each person's life journey, and it was strongly associated with the word love and the phrase compassion for all.
And finally, religious education empowers children and youth to participate in all of the above. A significant number of people said they had come to UUCPA specifically because of the strong CYRE program. This included some who had left other UU congregations for this reason, and some whose children are now grown, but who reported originally coming to UUCPA for this reason.
Over a third of the survey respondents selected one or more of the words and phrases teach, building bridges across generations, and stewardship for the future.
Thank you.
Well, thank all of y'all. That was really cool to hear. And thank you for what was obviously a ton of work that's gone into that and for the work that you're going to continue to do. Okay, next up is the report from the Campus Visioning Task Force with a presentation and then a vote. Sally, all yours.
This mic seems to be a bit more reliable, so we'll use this one. Hi, I'm Sally Unger. I'm the chair of the Campus Vision Task Force. And we also have here today Elza, if you'll stand up, Elza Schaefer, the chair of the Capital Campaign Committee. So if you bring up the presentation, please. So we're here to talk about the Campus Vision Plan. I trust all of you know what this is about, but I will give a little introduction just to set everybody at the same level. We've been doing this, I'll tell my little kitchen story. So probably 8 years ago now, maybe more, I was chair of a kitchen remodel task force. And we made some progress. We worked on it for about 6 months. And then I got asked to be president of the board. And I said, well, I can't be president of the board and chair of the kitchen remodel task force. And so I was told that they needed me more for president of the board. So the kitchen remodel task force went on hold. And the 5 years I was president of the board, I tried repeatedly to get someone else to take on the remodel task force. To no avail, as you might have noticed. So after my claimed 1 year of rest after 5 years of being president of the board, I said, okay, I'll do the kitchen remodel task force. So that was early in 21. And so I put together a task force, look at the kitchen remodel, and then Brooke and Amy brought in a capital campaign consultant to see if we could afford to remodel the kitchen. And then the capital campaign consultant did her thing and gave her report in the fall of 21 saying, oh, sure, everybody knows we need a new kitchen, no doubt about that. And our finances are in good shape and we can raise the money, not a problem. You guys are thinking too small. So that's when the idea was born in the board to think about the whole campus. It's our 75th anniversary. Let's do a 75th anniversary thing and remodel the entire campus for the next 75 years. And so then I said, okay, I'll be the chair of the Campus Vision Task Force. So that's how that started. And that was in the fall of last year. And then we started earlier this year, last year, interviewing architects, hired an architect. Oh, we had a congregational vote where we voted to spend, oh yeah, right, got an architect. We voted to spend $90,000 on the architect and the visioning process. So what we've been doing this year, since June, is what I as an engineer call the requirements gathering. So what I'm here to tell you about today is the result of that requirements gathering. So next slide, please. We told the architect that their job was to make an assessment of the campus. We wanted them to look at the physical state of the campus and say what actually needs to be done from a physical point of view, like the dry rot and, stuff like that. And also to run a process where we have the congregation visualize what they wanted the campus to be like for the next 75 years. We knew we wanted a new kitchen. We wanted to add air conditioning. We wanted to reduce our use of natural gas and go to electrical, what they call mechanical systems, which means heating and cooling and water heating. We wanted to upgrade our bathrooms. That had been a project on the capital improvements list for years that hadn't gotten done, and general facelift of the campus. Next slide. So the architect that we hired is Karen Payson. She's KPA&D is her little KPAD. That's what she goes by. Karen Payson, Architecture and Design. And here's the names of the Campus Vision Task Force, which you should all have memorized by now. And of course, all the congregants of UUCPA. So we can have the next slide. So this is the process we are undertaking. And I know that there are people who are disappointed that this congregational envisioning project process that we've done so far this year was not a design. And so you're going to hear me say that many times today. The goal of what we did this year was not to make a design. The goal was to gather requirements, to have the congregation think about what do they want this campus to be? What would they like to see in an improved campus? So we have completed that visioning process, and now we're having the vote November 20th about whether we want to continue with this. If we vote yes today, the next step is the financial feasibility study, which will be done by the capital campaign consultant. She will speak with some 20-ish% of the congregation, and she will make an estimate of what she believes we can raise. Her track record on making those estimates is very, very good. So we expect that her estimate, after speaking with people, will be a good determinant, a good predictor of how much we'll be able to raise. We will start in January with the high-level design of the project, and then we will do the capital campaign in parallel to that. And then after the capital campaign, which is going to be done along with our regular annual stewardship campaign, that, as you hopefully all know, ends with the annual meeting in April. We will have our pledges in hand, and then we will know exactly how much we can raise, and that should match the estimate from the financial feasibility study. Then we will start the detailed design, which will probably take the rest of the year. At some point, we start dealing with the city of Palo Alto, which I also assume you all know is not fun. And we expect to start construction in 2024. So what we're talking about today and what came out of the envisioning process is a list of what's in phase one, and I'll get to the details later. But I just wanted to point out, as long as we're looking at this slide, that the list of what's in phase one, we will iterate on that list. And iterate means to do things over and over and over again. So that list is going to change as we proceed through these steps that are up here on the slide. So we have a list that came out of the visioning process. We will update that list when we get the result of the financial feasibility study and start our high-level design. And then we will update that list again when we get the results of the actual capital campaign with the actual pledges in hand. We will iterate on that project list again. So this iteration of the project list will be happening as we go forward. I imagine it's going to be changed as we do the design, even as we do the construction. You know how things go if you've ever done construction. So next slide, please. So the visioning workshops that we held, I'm going to do these really fast. Okay, we held 2 workshops in June 12th with 52 people attending, June 25th with 41 people representing 22 committees. We also did an online survey that 28 people responded to. Next slide, please. Then we had more workshops in August. We had a full congregation on August 8th that 96 people attended. And then we had August 20th where 42 people attended representing 27 groups on campus. Next slide. So we took all that information, the architects took all that information, and they figured out what was the most important to the campus to implement. And the executive committee, which is not really a formal thing, but it's what I think of. I call it the executive committee. It's Elza Schaefer, myself, Amy, our minister, Brooke, our president of the board. So the 4 of us meet occasionally to, steer the ship here. We decided we would ask the architect to put together a plan for $5 million. So we said, give us a plan that's going to cost us $5 million and tell us what we can do for $5 million. Now, that number is aspirational. I know a lot of people like gasp, $5 million, that's a lot of money. But we wanted to do an aspirational plan. And like I said, we will be updating that project list once we get the financial feasibility study done and once we get the actual pledges in hand. But for the first round of our implementation plan, we asked the architect to do a $5 million plan. So next step. So two things, what became really clear during the congregational visioning is that, especially because of the pandemic, but also just because people like being outdoors, our outdoor spaces could use work. So one of the key parts of the first part of the $5 million plan is updating our outdoor spaces. So it would include a full redo of the surface of the main patio. And basically raising the surface of the main patio so that we don't have those steps along all those classroom doors. We don't have the steps along these glass doors. The patio would get raised up. There is an issue about the trees. We will deal with the trees correctly. Drew is like on top of that. He's on the task force. We will deal with the trees correctly when we raise up the patio. It will be a permeable surface that does not allow weeds to grow. Those are our two characteristics. We will find a permeable surface that does not allow weeds to grow, so Nancy won't yell at us. We're going to take out those benches, just make it much more smooth. It's going to be no step down from the fireside room either, so it'll be nice and open. It'll be really easy to go in and out, and we can arrange some furniture out there, stuff like that. Next slide. The other patio that really needs work and could be much more valuable to us if it had some work is the Till Evans garden and the McFadden patio building. So ditto on the permeable surface there, clean that up, clean up the McFadden patio room, make the storage more secure so things don't get stolen from the barbecue committee, and just clean up that room. It's a little shabby right now. Next slide. So here's a picture of phase one, which you clearly can't see, but all the pictures are also on easels out in the main hall if you want to look at them more closely. But basically, phase one, the $5 million, phase one is the $5 million plan. It's mostly the main hall. So it will include a new kitchen, of course, and upgrades to the choir room, upgrades to the storage, new bathrooms, air conditioning in the main hall with an all electric heat pump, heating and air conditioning in the main hall, all electric hot water heater, and the two patios is basically what we're looking at for phase one. But I have to say, the boring part of phase one is we have to bring, boring and expensive part of phase one, is we have to bring in all new electricity from the city of Palo Alto. So we have to get a new electric feed from the city of Palo Alto from the street, bring it in off the street. We have to have a new transformer, which is going to go over by the solar powered transformers over in the exit drive. We have to have a new main panel because our main panel dates from the original 1958 date of the church and is really hovering on, I was very nervous about it when I was president. Now it's Brooke's problem, but you know. Soon to be Buzz's problem, but it made me very nervous when I saw that main panel with the electrician and the inspector that came to inspect it. So, new main panel, it's all going to be completely invisible, and it's going to cost a lot of money. So, that's a big part of phase one, and it puts in enough electricity so that we can do everything else we want to do, like get to zero carbon. So we will have enough electricity to replace all of our carbon generating stuff with electrical stuff. And it will have enough electricity for more car chargers if we decide to do that. And it will have enough electricity for the new kitchen, which, as you know, if you've ever remodeled a kitchen, new kitchens always take more electricity. So phase 2, next slide, please. Phase 2 is the fireside room. We will update the fireside room, put in heat pump, air conditioning, some new storage. It also includes fixing that really ratty looking patio area behind rooms 4 or 5 that the preschool uses. Next slide, please. Phase 3 is all the rest of the classroom buildings. So we do all the rest of the classroom buildings. We give them new HVAC, new heat pump, electric HVAC, electric water heating, new bathrooms in those bathrooms over there. That's kind of the main thing in phase 3. Just all the classroom buildings, including the office and the library and the minister's building. So when I say the classroom, I mean all those other buildings. So phase 1 is the main hall. Phase 2 is fireside room. Phase 3 is everything else. Next slide, please. So what's not in our list? So what didn't make it in any of the phases is the new meditation pavilion. So if you look on this map, you can see the idea that the architect has for where the meditation pavilion could go is up in the front garden. The reason it's not in any of the phases, it's over $1 million to build that. Even without any plumbing, it's a lot of money. We can do it anytime we want if we want to spend $1.25 million. But that's why we didn't include it in any of the phases. Other things not in the phases are a rehaul of our IT infrastructure, which actually we will be doing. But we didn't know how much it was going to cost, so we didn't put it in the phasing. The problem was the person doing the estimating returned this really big estimate because they were estimating what it would cost if we were a commercial office building of our size, because that was kind of their standard IT estimate, which doesn't really apply to us. So what we need to do early on in the design phase is bring in a specialized IT consultant who can figure out exactly what we need, and then we'll get an estimate of what that's going to be. Those are kind of the key things that aren't in the phases. Next slide, please. So what's all this cost? So here's the costs for the whole shebang, our entire vision, not including the things I just said aren't included. So oh, actually, no, this is in there. The extras are in there too. So we got phase 1, and these are the hard costs, and I'm going to explain soft costs in a minute. So the hard costs of phase 1 is $3.8 million. The hard cost of phase 2 is $800,000. The hard cost of phase 3 is $2.8 million. And the current estimated costs of the things that were not included in any of the phases is about $3.5 million. So everything all added together, the hard costs are $10.9 million. And then you have to add the soft costs. What are soft costs, I hear you say? Much like I said in the first meeting when the architect said, oh no, that's not what it's going to cost. There's another 30% or so of extra costs. I'm like, ugh, shoot me now. Okay, so the entire Campus Vision soft costs are $3.5 million, which brings us to a total for the whole 9 yards of $14.5 million. So that's why we're starting with a $5 million phase 1, because we're not asking you to raise $14.5 million. So aren't you glad? Okay, so next slide, please. So here's the detail on the soft costs for phase 1. So phase 1's hard cost, $3.8 million. There's 18% added to that of architecture and engineering services. And you can see in the fine print towards the bottom that includes the architect and every possible kind of engineer you could possibly think of, construction type engineer. And then we're going to have a what the contractors people call owner's rep, what I call a construction manager. So we're going to have a professional managing the construction, since I refuse to do that. So the We pay someone, they represent the owner, they manage the contractors. They go to the site every day, answer the contractors' questions. You know, if you've ever done a remodel, you know what I'm talking about. You talk to your contractor every day. Every day they have some question. Like, do you want this corner square or rectangular? And you're like, I don't know. So anyway, so we're hiring someone to do that. And then we need a commercial kitchen designer, since we're looking at a commercial kitchen, and that's a specialty. We also need some other specialty consultants for our acoustics, our security. That's another 8% of the hard costs. Then there's the City of Palo Alto permits, which we got a rough estimate from them on what they think that's going to cost. So altogether, the phase 1 project budget, as it currently stands, is $4.9 million. And so that was the response from the architect. Here's what you can do for $5 million. And that's going to change. That's an estimate. That's not going to be the answer, okay? It's going to change many times before we're done. So next slide, please. That's it. Oh, good. Thank you. All right. So now I will take questions. I need a mic runner for the question.
Power.
Any questions? I'm going to move.
These are two questions that I have been asked to from Bob Green. He asked me to ask about whether we had considered an electrical system for a backup electrical system, presumably solar, for when the power goes down. And also, the second question, he's concerned about shade on the patio. That probably falls in Drew's area, but he says we need to accommodate people for whom exposure to direct sun is dangerous, and he wanted me to raise these 2 points.
Thank you, Marilyn. The first question is about, will we have battery backup for our electricity? And the Point Energy is the company we used to do our electrical plan. And they do have in the plan, I forget what the word is, maybe a breaker, something. A breaker on the outside of the main panel in the right place to put a battery. The cost of the battery is not in the estimate, but it will be battery ready. And the shade, that's a great idea. We will put that on the list for design. Any other question?
Well, I've been sitting here just wondering whether we're going to change the name to the heat pump room. We'd be the first.
From the fireside room? Okay. Are we going to change the name of the fireside room? Here's what I'm hoping.
We'd be the first on our block.
Okay, I'm hoping Elsa this is actually Elsa's job, not mine, but since she often stands up and speaks for me, I'm taking this opportunity to speak for her and say, somebody wants to donate $2.5 million, we will name the fireside room after them. And then it will be their name room.
Hi, my name's Geraldine. I'm setting out a couple of inquiries on behalf of Chris, who has asked me as a proxy. Is this a good time to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. His wishes are, in general, he likes the plan, but he does not think raising the floor is necessary, meaning raising the patio and making everything the same height. I'm not saying I agree with these. I'm Chris right now. I'm sorry? Oh, Chris, Jacoby, Issa's husband? I'm sorry, yeah. No, that's a good question. Second and last comment from Chris, he would like earthquake-proof windows. That's what he asked for.
So The first thing was about objecting to raising the patio, which that's a design issue. We will visit that in the design phase. And the second was wanting earthquake-proof windows. We would all love earthquake-proof windows. One of the things that's on the not funded list, not in any of the phases list, is replacing the windows. So that's not currently on the list. However, I will say about earthquake, I know I've heard Karen say this, that our earthquake analyzer person, I forget what they're called, but one of our consultants that looked at our buildings to see how earthquake-proof we are, said we're very advanced for a 1958 structure, that the architect was ahead of his time, and we need to do very little to brace our buildings for earthquakes.
I thought raising the patio care of non-compliant.
We're not going to have a discussion.
Okay.
We'll just take the comment.
While we're continuing to take questions from the people in person here, if you're online and you have a question, either put it into the chat or use the raise your hand function, and Kevin will let us know. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, Edie.
So I think I may stray to comments, but I'll keep them very quick. I'm so excited that we're moving forward with this. I mean, I've had my morning stretches of how long it's all going to take, and I'm over it. I'm just happy however long it takes that we're moving forward with this. I'm going to respond about the raising the level of the patio so that we could walk out this door without stepping down. And it gives me goosebumps. I'm so excited because it really is, I think, will be such a difference in making this an indoor-outdoor space. And that's what California churches, and I mean, sometimes when I've signed my name on different things and emails over the many years, one of my favorite ways to identify myself is food and party lover. And the food and party lover in me really wants this to all be one level. I think it'll make a big difference. There's one other thing perhaps Sally will comment on more. One of the things that was like, oh, I hadn't thought of that, but it makes a lot of sense, is that there will be a period of some time when this room is being remodeled and we won't be able to use it. So I hope it's during warm weather.
Okay, so I do not want to start a debate about any particular design decision. So this meeting is not to talk about any particular design decision, whether we raise the patio or lower the patio. That's not what we're here for. All that will take place during the design phase. And I never bring up the fact that we aren't going to be able to use the main hall because someone else brings it up. I never bring it up because I categorically deny any and all responsibility for working out what the activities of the church are going to be done with while we're doing construction. I don't raise money, I only spend money. And I don't worry about what's happening to church activities. I'm only going to be responsible for doing the building. So there will have to be a task force that will be responsible for figuring out what we're going to be doing with all of our church activities, not just services, but the use of the bookstore, the bath, everything. And I'm afraid you did not hear Karen say it's going to be 15 months. 1 year and 3 months. So can't be warm for 15 months. So that's the current estimate of how long the construction is going to cost. How long it's going to take, 15 months. And so we will be out of this building for 15 months. And so that's somebody else's problem. Next question.
I have a two-part question. The first part is, do we have a sense as to the likelihood of phase 2 and 3 actually occurring? And the second part is, have we considered identifying high priority requirements such as HVAC in classrooms or better IT that could happen before independently or more inexpensively? If so, this would likely be more exciting to many of us, particularly families and those with children in those classrooms eventually.
I really have no clue how likely phase 2 and phase 3 are. It will really depend on on how we do with phase one, and how much energy there is for doing a phase two. There are talks already of doing things out of order and possibly with capital budget funds, because you know that the church every year has a capital budget for doing capital improvements to the campus. So some of those things might happen in, with that capital budget money out of order. That's all still up in the air. But we are interested in getting input from everyone as we go through the planning.
I want to apologize. I have a minor emergency at home. I'm voting yes. May I do that in public right now?
No, I don't think you can, because we don't have a motion. I'm sorry. You could try and find someone who will be your proxy, but
may I name a proxy without doing the signed form? Right?
yeah, don't talk to everybody about that. Deal with Kevin. Okay. Anybody have a question, a real question? I'd like to do questions first, but do we have a question, and then we can move to discussion after we get all the questions answered. So here's a question up front.
There's a question on the screen.
Oh, there's a question on the screen.
I think it's me they're talking about.
Do we get a second or third bid? Seems odd to go with one, is the question on the screen. This is not a bid. I need to say that over and over and over again. This is a rough estimate of what these things might cost to our best knowledge today. So it is our best knowledge today that came up with an estimate of what this list of things will cost. I guarantee it will cost something different. When we go to get contractors, we will be getting multiple bids for contractors. That's when we will have really much more solid numbers of what it's going to cost.
I have one question for my proxy and one that I would like to know. For the high-level design, maybe could you elucidate a bit about what high-level design stage is? Just so that would clarify as compared to the first one. And the second part of that is, for that high-level design, are we getting 3 bids?
High-level, the high-level design will be, the high-level design, we will make decisions such as, are we going with the raised patio? What is the permeable surface going to be? We will make decisions about the kitchen. How is the kitchen going to be laid out? It will not include detailed designs, like maybe we won't know what all the cabinets in the kitchen look like. We won't know what all the surfaces of everything, like what kind of tile or whatever kind of surfaces you put in a kitchen. I'm not into kitchens myself. But anyway, that's in the detail. The high-level design will result in drawings, which is what I think a lot of people expected out of the requirements gathering step. So that's what that's my knowledge what high-level design is. And also, like I said, we're going to iterate on the project list as we go. We will not be getting multiple bids on the high-level design. We're going forward with the same process that we have today, the same architect. We've already invested 6 months into that architect. It would be silly to start over with the new horse. Next question.
I have a question on the fundraising. Will it be itemized? Will people be able to say, I want to put my money against A and don't care about B? Or
God help me, I hope not, but Elsa's right there. Hand her
Okay.
the mic. Elsa.
Elsa.
Thank you. There are 2 elements there. The ask in the beginning is to have unrestricted funds, and that's what the 5 million would represent.
There is in many fundraising setups the capability, if somebody wishes to say, I want to fund X. I have a special affinity for X, particularly if X is outside of that 5 million. That is definitely a possibility. And that is more up to you, the donors, than anything else.
Thank you. Question in the back.
So I think I'm going to, instead of phrasing it as a question, I'm going to phrase it as how I understand it. And if I'm wrong, then please correct me. So you have laid out a 13-month process. And what you are asking congregation to do is to have faith and go ahead and do it, is what congregation is going to tell you today, or not. Don't do it, stop it. And then congregation doesn't see anything until everything is done, and all of a sudden, voila, there we are. Or do we have another place, and what those places are, where congregation has a voice?
Of course, the congregation will have a voice as we go through this. We'll do some informal meetings, like town halls, I guess, with various, like when we come up with the new project list based on the financial feasibility study, we'll have input meetings for that. Where the congregation will have a vote is up to the board. So Elsa and I have been talking about it a little bit, like when would be the right time to have another vote, but it's really up to the board to decide when they need the congregation to vote on something. But Elsa and I were thinking about, at the annual meeting, have another vote on where we are with once we know what the real pledges are in hand. Elsa, do you want to say anything else? Or Buzz as VP? No. Okay, Elsa says no, she doesn't have anything to add to that. So yes, there will be more congregational votes. I don't know when they're going to be. If you have an opinion of when they should be, talk to the board.
Well, we had a question also, just for clarity for us, on the high-level design, are we going to go with the 5 million high-level design, or are we going to wait for after the financial feasibility study and go with that number for the high-level design?
We are going to wait. Okay, so the question was the high-level design, what is it going to be based on? We are going to get a number from the financial feasibility study of an estimate of how much we can raise with our capital campaign. We will take that number, we will work with the architect and the estimator to update the project list to match the amount of dollars that we think we can raise. Then we will start the high-level design based on that new project list. So that's one of the places we update the project list, after we get the financial feasibility study. The other place where we update the project list is after we get the final pledges in and we know exactly what we've raised. We may have to tweak the project list there also. Hopefully higher, because I'm hoping the real pledges will be higher than the financial feasibility study result is. But those are the two main times. But like I said, these lists are going to probably change here and there as we run into problems or opportunities or that kind of thing that usually happen with construction projects. Bill.
Bill Hilton?
No, he doesn't have a question.
Oh, okay.
Well, I figure the task force members have to be good for something. Okay.
There was a question last time, I'm not sure if there's any clarity on it, but there was some concern when they tried to raise the capital last time they did all this work, spent a lot of money, presented to the city of Palo Alto, and voila, Palo Alto said, you got to fix that creek side over there, and then that raised the cost so much that they canceled the whole thing. And what kind of steps we're going to take to prevent that occurring again?
Okay, so that's a bit of a dramatic summary of history. We did not cancel the whole thing, but it was true that we had a plan to build an office building in the visitor parking lot here. And when that plan went to Palo Alto, it triggered a whole mess of stuff. They said we had to redo all the parking lot, redo the creek, put in new fire hydrants. I mean, it was immense. And so it was going to cost us another $1 million. And this was 20 years ago. So yeah, we did not do the new building. It was the new building that triggered all that. So we are not planning to build a new building with these plans. We are upgrading our current building. We are keeping our footprint the same, So we don't expect to trigger those things. Karen has already been working with the Palo Alto City Planning Building Departments, whatever they're called. She started working with them day one. She has been working with the Palo Alto permit people and the Palo Alto planning people, and she's been running by them what we plan to do, what kind of things. She's covered a lot of bases there. Like the historical thing, there's like a whole historical thing we have to watch out for. So she's on top of all of that. So that's the architect's job, to make sure we don't run into those kind of things. And I don't think we will run into the whole creek parking lot problem because we aren't changing our footprint.
Question on the screen.
Question on the screen.
I think you're talking about me. Can everyone hear me?
Hi, Brooke.
Hi. Well,
Hi,
I just
Brooke.
want,
Hi, Brooke.
okay. I just wanted to weigh in as board president right now that we certainly do value the congregation having a vote on this process. It's healthy for everyone. It helps the congregation. It helps the committee. It helps the whole thing happen. So it is entirely possible that there would be another vote in April, but obviously that depends on where we are with the design and with the fundraising. But we certainly are not looking to, cut folks out of the process. We want people to be involved and to feel like the decisions we're making are, we're not going to reach 100% unanimous agreement on everything, but we certainly want to come to consensus and have everything be well explained, why we're making certain decisions, and go forward with a clear green light from the congregation.
The voice from on high. There's a question over there.
It's more of a comment for thought. Having no steps, having a clear, easy way to get in and out of the buildings here seems to me to be a safety issue. It's not just an aesthetic one. We have had people trip in the parking lot and get hurt. We've had people fall going in and out of these buildings, up and down the steps. I think we should think of this not only as an aesthetic improvement, making it easier to join the outdoors, but a real safety improvement.
It's a safety and a universal accessibility issue. So in our philosophy going into this design, we are adopting a universal accessibility approach, which is more than the ADA accessibility stuff. It's a higher level of accessibility. So I think we're ready to make the motion. Can you bring up our motion slide? Oh, there's a question back there? Oh, sorry.
Comment.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Sally. Just wanted to thank you and the task force for taking everyone's opinion. Speaking on behalf of Safe Parking, I appreciate the features that you've added that'll let us continue to serve our community the best we can.
Great, thank you. So the Capital Campaign Committee and the Campus Task Force have worked together to create a motion, which is on a slide that you have back there coming up soon. And since it's a motion by multiple people, we do not need a second on it. So the Capital Campaign Committee and the Campus Vision Task Force move that UCPA continue with the Campus Vision project, including the capital campaign and the design. So Buzz takes over now as, what do we call it? Presiding officer.
Okay, thanks, Sally. So just for belt and suspenders purposes, I would like for somebody to make a second on this motion if they are so moved. Second. All right. Chris raised his hand and seconded the motion. Is there any further discussion that anyone wants to have on the motion? And I'll run the mic now.
I just want to have us all notice and appreciate the amount, not just the amount of time that people have put into this, but the incredibly generous offer of a significant amount of the cost of doing this. And I want to make sure that they are aware of how deeply we appreciate them.
Thank you. Further discussion on the motion that's been brought before us? Hang on, Robert. Robert has a point.
I just wanted to say that I appreciate this information that Sally's brought and how it fits with the ongoing maintenance of the campus as well, and I will be supporting the motion.
Thank you, Robert. Further discussion on the motion, either in the room, anybody online? Okay, I think we're ready to make a vote. So if you're in the room, you have a blue and possibly a pink ballot. I'm going to call the voting in this following order. I'm not asking you to vote right now, but I'm just going to explain the process. I'm going to call first for ayes. Then we will count all of them. Then I will call for nays, and we will count all of them. And then I will call for abstentions. And we will count any abstentions that there are. If you're on Zoom, Kevin, do we want them to put their votes in the chat? Okay, so the instructions, if you're on Zoom, are to raise your hand to be counted on Zoom. And if you are voting for a proxy in addition to yourself, please put the proxy vote into the chat. So it'll be. And if there are more than one of you on a Zoom connection, we will figure that out. And that might be a perfect thing for the chat. Okay, does anybody have any questions about the voting process? No, it's pretty straightforward. I just wanted to explain it. Okay, so first, now we're going to call for all of those voting aye in favor of the motion. Please cast your ballots. And please, if you're in the room here, please keep your hands up so that they can be counted. Bill, there's one vote. Yeah, there you go. No, just Kevin's. Okay. All right. All right, Bill, Susan, you guys are finished counting here in the room? Okay, you can put your hands down. Thank you. Okay. And then Kevin, how many were there in favor? Okay. Now let's move to the those voting against. If you're in the room, please hold up your hand. voting against the motion, and then follow the same process online. So anybody against the motion? Okay. And now finally, is anyone voting? Oh, sorry. I saw no nay votes online. There's one in the room? Okay, thank you. And then is anyone abstaining? Again, if you're in the room, hold up your ballot as an abstention. And if you're online and you wish to abstain, please indicate using the process that we're using. Any abstentions in the room? Any abstentions online? Okay. So if I've counted this correctly, we have, what's 48 plus 16? Who's good on math? Is that 64? We have 64 yes votes, 1 no vote, and 0 abstentions. That means the motion is approved and carried. Thank you, Sally, and thanks to everybody on the mission, the Vision Task Force. Okay, so I think we're ready to close the meeting. I just want to say thank you to everybody for participating, for being here. What's that? Okay. I wasn't going to vote to close the meeting. We could. Does anybody oppose closing the meeting? All right. Then I want to thank everybody for their participation and also for being kind and compassionate and respectful of others while we had this decision. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Oh, yes. Way out. Please put them on the table on the way out. Put your